honest, I now try and get involved in the producing of any movie I do. Especially when they come to you in the early stages with a script, and you know that you have a chance to develop and mold the idea into something that you feel works more. And originally, believe it or not, this was written as with the backdrop of baseball, and we wanted to give it a more international appeal. And also, I think soccer is an upcoming, exciting idea in America. So we moved it towards that, and then it's just a chance to get more involved. You choose the actors. I took it to Gabriele, the director, and pitched it to him. And then you have a movie that's more of your own making, and you feel more involved with.
Cool. You have both Uma Thurman and Catherine Zeta-Jones sort of back. So how did you lure them back? They're not really working very much these days.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of surprised myself, but they both. I mean, who knows what brought them back? I don't want to say. I'm sure they were charmed by the idea of working with Gabriele because he's a great director, and the script was. There were fun roles for women like themselves to get into. I mean, they're juicy, comedic, kind of crazy roles to get into, and yet they speak to you in a way that I think is very relatable. People get those characters, where they're coming from, their frustrations, their horniness, and that's what I loved about this movie as well, as those kind of, but it's just funny because you get that as an actor in my position, and also in understanding George, that you kind of can cause a bit of chaos even with the best intentions wherever you go, and that's George is both chaotic in the inside, and he causes kind of chaos wherever he goes, and yet he's trying his best, to take the right path. But that right path is often blocked by those who would like to get their claws into him, because he's quite an appealing character in some ways, and yet in himself he doesn't feel appealing at all. That's what's interesting about it,
I want to say, first off, congratulations. The movie was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And you're so good around kids. Is that something, would you ever want one of your own? You're so good around them.
Yeah, and every time I make another movie with kids, I realize more and more that I would love to have kids, because I do have a real affinity and a connection. And I develop a very strong relationship. Like Noah, by the time this movie finished, it broke my heart to say goodbye to him, because, I spent so much time hanging out with him, and he amazed me on a moment-to-moment basis with who he was as a person, with how he was with the other kids. He lacked such ego. He was just part of that crowd, and yet he brought it to the table, and then really, it gave such a great performance. So he was always surprising me with that as well. And and the themes that you touch on, fatherhood, connecting with your kid, and the beauty that comes out of that, for sure, you're left moved and maybe inspired to go in that direction.
Maybe you can just rent one for a little while.
By the way, that's a much better idea. In truth, take them before the teen, take them after baby. You just have them being a baby, and then before the teens, when you sell them or something.
Keep the gift receipt.
Pass them along.
Don't say that. My wife's giving birth next week.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Along that same line, I'm curious. I mean, there's a lot of different relationships in the movie. What was the easiest chemistry? Did you find the easiest chemistry with Noah, or was it with one of the other, co-stars?
That's really tough to say because, for instance, as I just said, working with Noah was magical and just so easy, because that's often what you get from kids. Right. There's no preconceived ideas. He didn't have a lot of experience, so whatever came out of him was just what he was feeling and thinking at that moment. But then when you're working with somebody like Jessica Biel, and to me this is the best performance I've ever seen her give, I loved every scene that I did with her. They were surprising and moving and kind of poignant and hilarious at times as well. And then you're working with, again, I'm sitting on the fence here, but it's true. Then you're working with Catherine Zeta-Jones, who just, her first rehearsal, her first take is just punchy and bang on, and you go, listen, it's like you just it's like fitting into a glove. It was easy and fun, and you knew you were making great comedy and great drama at the same time.
That's cool.